Quorum Court meeting. I'm going to ask that Justice Whitley lead us in prayer and Justice Kellum in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd stand.
Please bow your heads with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we're so very thankful for another opportunity to come here and to serve you. Pray, Lord God, that we would do your will, that you'd grant us your wisdom tonight to make a difference for our county, to make a difference for every citizen who lives here. We just thank you again for that opportunity, and we pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, if you would, call roll.
Bisbee.
Here.
Hatcher.
Here.
Billingsley.
Here.
Kellum.
Here.
Root. Justin Root. Bellinger.
Here.
Curtis.
Here.
Alvarez.
Here.
Engel.
Here.
Whitley.
Here.
Chisholm. Johnson.
Here.
Crowson.
Here.
11 present.
Point of personal privilege, please keep Justice Chisholm in your thoughts and prayers. He underwent chemotherapy treatment this afternoon, and that's the reason for his absence. So appreciate him. Just be praying. I hope you've had the opportunity to look over the minutes from our last meeting, and if so,
Second.
we got a motion by Bellinger and a second by Billingsley. Is there any additions, deletions, corrections? Hearing none, all of those in favor of approval of minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Reports and proclamation. I'm going to report to you. If you take one of these, please, and pass it around. What you will see in front of you is a letter that was tendered to me, the resignation of Justice Justin H. Root. Let me help you with that. Okay. This was given to me on Friday, or actually emailed to me on Friday, effective immediately per Justice Root. So you will have that for your records. If you have any questions of me, feel free to ask. You know, Justice Rue is in our presence today. I know that he said a few things to some of you. Justice Rue, do you have anything in which you'd like to address the court?
Sure.
Before you do, just so that we're doing this procedurally.
Make a motion to suspend the rules and allow former Justice Rue as much time as he needs at the podium.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, to suspend the rule and allow for Justice Rue to address this court. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Justice Rue, you recognize.
Thank you, Judge. What a great 3 years. Don't want to get too emotional. My fellow Justice of the Peace, wow. We went through some really unique times, and we stuck together. We moved the party forward. Judge, county government, you guys made our job so easy by how well you run it. Department heads, kudos to you guys. You guys are just rock stars. Balanced budget, can't say enough about it. Thank you, Angie. I will always be in your corner. You guys got my number. If you need anything, you call me. It's been an absolute honor and a pleasure to serve each of you, my constituents of District 5. I look forward to Justice Bellinger being my representative now, which I'm glad I have his number because I have a lot of issues to take up with him.
Bring it on, big boy. Bring it on.
God bless you all, our county, our state, and our country.
Thank you for your service. Court, so so this will be discussed in the upcoming committee meeting first Monday of December. Then there will be scheduled for a vacancy to be declared in the December 3rd Monday meeting with the full court. And then we will turn that into the governor's office for her appointment to this court. If you have any questions about it, please let me know. Remember, this is a governor's appointment after our declaration of a vacancy. Okay. You will find on your agenda an appointment at Exhibit A. I'll ask the clerk to read it in its entirety, unless somebody would like for us to read it. Actually, we can read it by title, can't we? An appointment. Clerk, if you read by title only.
In the matter of an appointment to the Saline County, Arkansas Water Works and Sanitary Sewer Public Facilities Board, Woodland Hills.
I'd entertain a motion.
Second.
Got a motion by Justice Bellinger and a second by Justice Krausen. Is there anybody here to speak for or against this appointment? Court, is there any discussion on this appointment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Dawson has been appointed. Exhibit B is an ordinance. I'll ask for it to be read in its entirety. I think there's a little business to be done and discussed on this, actually, that differs from our committee
Yeah,
discussion.
I think this has been amended since our committee meeting. I don't know what the amendment is, so if you'd recognize Angie.
Angie, if you will.
So the amendment is in Article 6. Basically, the 911 board has voted to appropriate funds that were received in a reimbursement grant that I'll talk about a little bit more in budget, to purchase a battery backup to basically cover the time that they're down between the generator kicking on and the other. If 911 power goes out, they still have sometimes that a little bit downtime. So they wanted to replace it with those funds.
So we didn't pass this and finance this with this language, so I'll make a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only as amended per this document.
So moved. Oh, did you make a motion?
Yeah.
We have a motion by Justice Curtis and a second by Justice Whitley. We'll open this up for any discussion. Please, I want you all to know that the 911 board meeting met after finance. This wasn't something that was just not recognized during finance. It wasn't brought up until afterwards at a 911 board meeting. I want to go on to say, and we'll talk a little bit more about it in budget, the immediacy of this is extremely important. We lost power to our 911 center 3 times in 5 days. What that means is, while we're waiting for the transfer switch to come on, it only takes a half a second. But in those 7 seconds, we lose everybody that we're on the phone with a 911 call. And then we're waiting to spool back up. This will allow us to never lose that. We've tried to obtain this technology through grants that unsuccessfully, and then we have put out again for a grant, but it's so far down the line, we can't afford any more of these lapses in service to people that are faced with an emergency. So I just wanted to bring the court up to date on that. So, got a motion by Justice Curtis, a second by Justice Whitley. Is there any other discussion?
Judge, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Where is this money coming from?
Thank you. The money is coming from $400,000. We are blessed to have somebody that's very knowledgeable about this, if I don't explain it fully. There are certain things in the consolidation of PSAPs that you must achieve to bring in everybody. Saline County did, I won't say in a biased manner, but in a truthful manner, an exceptional job of consolidating our PSAPs. We've checked the boxes, and with that comes the expenditure on technology to be able to bring all of those things in. if you're able to prove and submit to the state 911 board that you have been able to accomplish those things through the purchase of certain equipment that is necessary, then you're eligible for $400,000 in a grant money. It's reimbursement money also. That reimbursement money is to continue to build and sustain a resilient 911 system. I can't think of anything that meets that better than this, as we have lapses in our resiliency, but this will shore us up. That's where the money's coming from. It's not a general fund money spend. It's monies that were achieved through our consolidation.
Just one comment on that. This is very important because I know in my business, when our battery backups have failed, it causes havoc on computers and everything else. So not only are we losing the phone calls in 7 seconds, we're also creating problems with our equipment. So I can understand it very, very well. Thank you.
Thank you for the comment. Is there any other comment? Is there anybody here to speak for or against this ordinance? Hearing none, we'll do a voice vote, please. If we will do a roll call, please. We had a motion from Justice Curtis, a second from Justice Whitley, to suspend the rule and to read by title only with the amended expenditure. You'll read by title only. I'm gonna see how bad I can mess this up. All I'm gonna say, okay? You've heard before you the suspension of the rules. All those in favor of suspending the rules signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Clerk, will you please now read by title only?
Being enacted by the Quorum Court of Saline County, State of Arkansas, an ordinance being entitled, an ordinance to amend the 2025 Saline County Budget Ordinance Number 2024-35, anticipate revenue and to the appropriate transfer funds, therefore to the various budgets and for other purposes as amended.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Curtis and a second by Engel. Is there anybody here to speak for or against this ordinance? Court, do you have any discussion? We need a roll call vote, please.
Bisbee,
Yes.
Hatcher,
Yes.
Billingsley.
Yes.
Kellum,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Alvarez,
Yes.
Engel.
Yes.
Whitley,
Yes.
Chisholm, Johnson,
Yes.
Crossan.
Yes.
That's 2025-18.
Well, that was easy. That ordinance is passed. Before we go into discussion of budget, our next Quorum Court meeting, our next committee meeting, as mentioned earlier, will be held on the first Monday of December, which is also our Christmas parade night. Not to just beat around the bush, what I would like to do is advocate that we hold our committee meeting at 6:45. The Christmas parade begins at 6. The news crews will be here. We'll talk during the weather. And like the courthouse, at 6:45, we would be able to reconvene. Is there any objection to meeting at 6:45 on that Monday? Let the record show that we will meet committee first Monday, December 1st at 6:45 p.m. Okay, next on our agenda is the 2026 budget discussion. I've asked that our finance chair kind of go through the procedures of this budget, so I'm just going to hand it over to Mr. Curtis.
Just real quick, 'cause I want to be transparent about the process of the budget. Angie and I and Judge Brumley have been meeting on the budgets, working with elected officials. We're going to have our, for calendar's sake, Jessup will meet their normal annual meeting November the 20th to discuss merits and job descriptions, things like that. Then there'll be a special HR meeting November 24th at 5 o'clock or 5:30. We still haven't set the time on that just yet, to discuss the Jessup recommendations. Then after that, we will have our normal finance meeting December the 1st. And this is when you'll have the opportunity to request elected officials to come and present their budgets. We've broken it out into 3 different pages this year. One page are under flat budgets or decreased budgets under $15,000 or less. So $15,000 or less is in your front little flap right here, the folder or the slide, whatever, pocket. There's the word pocket. And then you'll have a budget that's over $15,000. And everything you see in those 2 pages are currently in the budget prepared for you right now. Now there's a 3rd page that's kind of a little different this year. It's called a supplemental page, and it's got, I don't know, 8 or 9 items that we will be discussing. Those elected officials will be requested to be here December 1. No matter what, they'll talk about those increases in those projects and why they want to increase their budget. So they'll have a chance to present, and we'll vote on those individually or however we want to vote on them. I figured we'd take up the first 2 pages first and then invite everybody to present their supplemental budgets. However, if you see anything in the budget on those first 3 pages or anywhere in the budget and you have questions, as always, reach out to staff, and if you would like to have that specific elected official or department head here, we will send an invite to that person and have them here December the 1st. Hopefully we'll do a lot of work December 1st, and the plan is to pass the final budget on the December regular Quorum Court meeting. And that's all I have. I'll turn it back to you, Judge.
Are there any questions?
You said the potential HR meeting would be when? The 24th?
November 24th.
At 5:30.
5:30? Okay.
Are there any other questions? Very good. Angie, for those that are in attendance and don't know, is our comptroller. Angie, if you would, could you go over kind of our revenues, beginning balance, and all of those things to help guide us through the work that's been done?
Yes, sir, I'll be glad to. So I've given y'all all one of these lovely little binders, and JP Curtis has already covered what's in your little side pocket on the left over here. And so I was gonna try to cover some of the higher points in what's in the budget booklet, and then I'm not gonna cover every single page. I won't keep y'all here all night. I'll try to be reasonable. So the first page that should be in your packet is basically looking at the assessment for, it's got a historical assessment, but if you look at our assessment growth in 2024 to 2025's assessment that's collectible in 2026, we had a 4.33% increase in our assessment value. That's something going to be on your top line after the headings. That would be your top line. You can see last year we're at 5.3, and then the year before that 8.93. The year before that was a reappraisal year, and then next year will also be a reappraisal year. So just as y'all going forward, 2026 will be a reappraisal year also. I also just noted the value of 1 mil, which is just over 2.8 million out to the side. And then if you go about middle of the page out to the far right, you can see that our money of increase that affects county general going for 2026 is just right under $600,000 growth. Any questions on the assessment page?
I'm going to interrupt a few times
Okay, that's
through
fine.
this. I did want to say thank you to our assessor's office. That growth that was just stated, we don't ever need to take that for granted. There's a lot of counties around here, but we need to look at our citizens also, our communications director, our collector, our treasurer, all of those friends of ours across the street. I have never seen it run more efficiently than it has been as far as collections, especially on that October 15th date, and we were able to achieve great success through collections and enjoy this growth. Thank you all for that.
Yes, sir. So if you'll turn the page to the next page, this is the county general. I have the historical value all the way back to 2020, but I could not make it fit where y'all could actually see it. I couldn't even read it. So if you wanted more information, we can go back further for any of the years, but I've just kept 2023 up through a current year budget going into 2026 for you. If you will notice that very top line, 2025's carryover balance that I had expectations of was just over 6.5. I feel like due to some revenues that I'll kind of go through as I kind of go through some of these lines, we will have a larger carryover balance going into 2026, which is very beneficial for us to have that this year. So I'm doing a carryover balance of just over $7 billion. Of course, that's estimating based on looking at what I actually did is take the 2025 September 30th balance and then projected revenue expenses and try to get as close as I can come. I'm only going to hit some of the higher points. So if you go on that far right-hand column, has your budget change column. About the fourth line down, there's a $327,000 increase. One of the things I did want to point out is property tax relief, which is your homestead credit that we all get on our property taxes if you have real property, has increased again. They increased it in the legislative session in 2025. So in 2026, that would be a $600 credit that we would, basically that funds come through our collector's office, go through the state, come back from the state, and that's what that's called as property tax relief when it comes back to us. But that's our $600 value that we get back for property taxes, which is basically considered state revenue when you look at it with legislative audit. And then if you keep going down about another 10 rows, there's a local property taxes current. Part of that property tax relief is in that assessment that we previously discussed. So, like I said, it goes to the state, but it is still property taxes that's coming back to us through state revenues. So we have a $373,000 increase there, which if you look at those two numbers is basically making up your little over $600,000 increase based on collections. If you go down to about 3/4 of the page down, one of the things I wanted to point out is 7501, the interest income. When I mentioned the beginning balance change, a large portion of that is because we have invested some of our funds in CDs throughout these previous months, and it's earning a little bit more than what it does. I always budget interest very conservatively because I'm sure most of you have heard that interest rates are starting to go back down. We're locked in for a little while longer, but then we'll have where we have to renegotiate that. But I budgeted at $250 last year. As of September, we had collected in County General just over $346. We did increase that budget by about $95,000 next year. You know, I still am thinking I'm going to be pretty conservative with the $345 based on previous years, but I just wanted to make sure I'm still conservative and not trying to give y'all a big credit there that I'm not expecting to actually come in. And then just a few lines below that, you'll see a $30,000 decrease. That is basically a result of what the circuit clerk passport fee. Also in the 2025 session, they passed a law that we had to establish, and if you remember, I think it's been about 3 months ago that y'all established that circuit court passport acceptance fee fund. So those funds are different, or not be reflected in County General, so that will come out of this budget and is reflected in a separate budget now, which I'll go into a little bit more detail, but it's basically about $40,000 a year that we usually get off of that. And then I've had a couple of other increases just on my collector's commission and assessor's commission. These come from, it's basically coming from tax monies, but it's coming from the operations of those offices that are allowed in the final tax settlement, and then the commissions come back, whatever's not used in those. We get a portion of that, as do the other taxing entities. So, excuse me. I have increased that budget based off previous years that I was a little bit under on that. If you remember, 3 years ago, we moved the collector's expenses that were in the automation fund back to County General, and that's the reason we're able to see this increase, is basically for that reason. We've seen the increase, which is also driving part of our beginning balance, but now I'm going to put it in the budget. So if you'll turn the page, basically, if you'll go, I'm not going to go through all those 1000s and 2000s unless you'll have a specific questions on those, just to save some time. But if you look towards the bottom, as of right now, our total 90% budget, because the law allows that we budget 90%, is $26,408,000. Budgeted expenses, as J.P. Curtis referred to, that are noted over here in these individual budgets that were already in the budget that's being presented, which is all these detail pages, comes over $20.25,214,516. which leaves what we call the unappropriated remaining balance of just over 1.1, or just under 1.2 actually. That is not, that's basically including those expenses and nothing additional as of right now.
Any questions thus far?
I will give credit to all of our elected officials and departments. They really tried really hard this year to ask for things that were necessities, and they do every year, not just the whole big wish list, because they know we don't have just a lot of excess monies, but they were very good in trying to work with me on budgets and try to keep them in reason and look at their budgets real closely. They're always great to work with, and I appreciate it so much. The next page, and I'm not going to go through every single one of them detailed, but I'll mention a few of them. The LATC fund is the monies that we got from some of the ARPA COVID relief monies. That is $100,000. It's a one-time grant. We have not spent that. A few years ago, we put it in the budget for some kind of long-term plan, and we haven't really spent that, so it can only be spent for that, but it doesn't have a time period on it. The next two, the ARPA revenue replacement, that's the one we're using to do the jail addition, and also a portion of the AWIN project that was approved several years ago. This ARPA revenue replacement and ARPA monies will run out December 31st, 2026, so they have to be spent. They're already obligated. We had to have them obligated by December 2025. You'll notice that I just put remaining balance for the 2026 budget, because basically that's already appropriated, obligated according to agreements and signed contracts. So whatever we have not spent, AWIN is kind of bordering whether or not I'll write them another check. Of course, the jail addition, we still may have another check there, but I'll just budget whatever we have not spent in those two funds next year. And then the next one is COVID relief fund. Those were also one-time monies. What we have done with that is basically budgeted some improvements that we've got a courthouse grant that we got a portion of. Most of them were either 75-25, or the last one was 66-33. And so part of those monies to do our portion of that grant match is built into that fund. And then the county clerk had also requested a $50,000 to put for restoration and preservation of some of his books in his office, because he's having some of them are just basically disintegrating on him. So he asked for that, and we put that in the budget as presented. The next page, if you turn, is your road fund. It is basically a self-sustaining fund, so the last year, we had spent a little bit more on overlay. 2025, we got back to our normal amount that we typically spend on overlay, maybe a little bit higher than we used to. I expect that we will have about $700,000 additional monies in that budget this year, based on increases in beginning balance and then some increases in revenue. Of course, most of their monies comes from state turnback and then property tax relief funds, which is the same thing that's homestead credit. And then your property tax increase because the road fund has a millage. And so that budget right now, the 90%, 2026 90% budget is 15.87. Budgeted expenditures as of right now are just over 14 million, which leaves an appropriated balance of 1.8. As you remember, last year or this year, I think we've had 4 storms, and so that did hit the road budget pretty hard this year. We have filed for FEMA reimbursement. I don't know how much we'll actually get. We have gotten a little bit of it so far. So that is one of the things that we try to keep a pretty decent unappropriated balance, because we never know what's going to hit our road. I mean, that costs us quite a bit over time in a lot of months this year. The next one is our additional motor fuel tax, which is the fund that was created in 2019. That comes from motor fuel tax. So that budget, we have pretty much saved that sort of for a special project or some year when we need to have additional monies. We've budgeted $1 million of that, and we haven't appropriated just 1.6. The next page is our jail budget. We have increased, basically, all of y'all are aware, we get those monies that come in that are from housing state prisoners, federal inmates. They get just a little bit of commissions. They also get, we have the contracts with the cities that we implemented a few years ago. Some of those increase, some of those decrease, but the net was just a little bit of a small increase. But if you look, most of those revenues I've got as a negative decrease just based on previous year collections and what those are. The increase in that budget is basically a $200,000 increase from county general transfer in, because county general basically supports this fund and 911 fund whenever it cannot support itself. And jail fund usually does not support itself. I will say that I've got the revenue at 5.2, the budgeted expenses just over 5 million, which leaves us an unappropriated balance of 206. Sheriff and chief both worked really hard on this budget, because this is one of those that will hit us in 2026. We'll be opening a new addition at some point in time. One of the things that we've worked in with Judge, that I've been privileged to be in the meetings of, is just that we're trying to remodel some of those that we won't have that chance to do, which Judge has mentioned multiple times. So Sheriff has postponed trying to add new staff to try to just fill the staff, because we usually have a hard time filling these positions also. He worked really hard not to add any positions, and on the medical contract and various things. So the biggest things you'll see in that budget are going to be food and increases like that. Slight increase in the medical contract, but he worked really hard on that. You have something?
Keep rolling.
Okay. Y'all have any questions so far? Okay, I promise I'm not going to go through every page. The next page is the 911 emergency fund. We have, if you'll see, there's a increase in the 2025 beginning balance to the 2026 of approximately $400,000 or so. It is that grant that Judge just mentioned a few minutes ago, is what's biggest lead thing that's driving that beginning balance. This is also one of those that County General has to support. We pay just over 40%. The other part, the portions that Benton and Bryant that are the ones that contribute to this consolidated grant, is 33% for Benton, 19% for Bryant, now that we're completely consolidated. So I do have an increase in those transfers, because we will bill them out. We always true them up in March for whatever we haven't got, because we have an agreement. 911 board worked really hard on this budget, and Jerry did too, to decrease this budget actually going into 2026. Jerry went through and looked at everything he needed versus they worked really hard to get on this. So I will say that you will see a decrease when you look at the detail pages of just the expenses being at 2.8 this year. So we have an $896,000 unappropriated, of which a portion of that will be the thing that y'all approved in the ordinance tonight will actually be spent this year, but the rest of that grant will be in this balance.
Question.
You recognize Justice Bellinger?
Angie, on that, you say Benton and Bryant contribute to that fund also. What about the other incorporated cities in Saline County? Are we?
If I may.
Yes.
Those that contribute sit on the 911 board, and they have the aforementioned 911 board. You'll notice on your sheet how those expenses are broken up. So the county, the other unincorporated areas, we vote for them also.
Okay.
Now I'll speak in a moment, but I really want to draw your attention to this one. There's great challenges in emergency business. I could not be more proud of the way our Office of Emergency Management and our Saline County Emergency Dispatch Center operates. We've been tested this past year to a degree that I've never seen in my many years. And we came out on top every time. And then we come before this Quorum Court and our citizens with a budget that's $81,000 less than the year previous. That doesn't happen without extremely hard work and scrutiny of the budget. We're more efficient, we're more productive, and our citizens are served better. That goes for every city, and that goes for the entire county and unincorporated areas. Now, here in a few minutes, another shoe's going to drop, and we're going to need every bit of that $81,000. But I just wanted to make mention of that, and I want to say, Director Cohen, I can barely see you through there. Thank you for you and your team and your hard work.
The only thing I did forget, thank you, Judge, and the only thing I did forget to mention in this that this was approved by 911 board. The 911 fees that we've collected, they kept that at $125,000. I'm not sure that that will be.
I'll say it so you don't have to.
Okay.
We will not see those revenues. I'm just telling you, they're not coming. Landlines are not coming back. Thank you. And so expect that we'll have a deficit in revenues, and that's where you're going to see it.
Thank you.
I won't call him out, but I think I got an expert on this court that agrees with that.
I would say I do agree with that. I would argue that maybe to counter that, the wireless fees, we would hope would continue to climb to maybe counter that. So.
Certainly hope so.
The next few pages, I won't give you every single one of these unless you just want to. I want to get some of the high points. So these are all the automation funds, the grant funds, all the other funds that basically the county has that are in our fund accounting that are not part of county general, not part of the ones that we just covered. These also, for the most part, do not affect county general. And when I say for the most part, because sometimes if the automation is not able to pick up any kind of increase, it does have to affect county general because it has to go there or have to do some kind of presentation of y'all or anything else. So I won't really touch base until you turn to page 3 and about 3 of the third page of those numbers. I'm sorry. I promise y'all will get page numbers on these next year. I apologize again. And I can print y'all a new copy of this little section and put page numbers on it for next meeting. And so the third page, it starts with the 3028 adult drug court fund. If you look about 3/4 of the way down, 3049 is that passport acceptance fee that I mentioned earlier when I was talking about county generals, the decrease in 40,000. So we've already collected $6,300 in that fund for this year as of September 30th. We've not spent any of it. We've picked up another $40,000 that I assume will be our revenue based on what we can usually collect in county general as for 2026's revenue. And then we've only budgeted that at 15, which basically is going to be your overtime and any kind of like postage or things that are required for filing for those passports. So that we'll see what that budget looks like next year. We may have to increase or decrease, but that's one of the things I want to draw your attention. And then if you'll turn the page one more time, I have a couple of pages that y'all don't have, but I will say I want to draw y'all's attention to these few, and then I'll kind of probably close out. If you look about halfway through that next page, you will see the 3406 voluntary tax warning system. I wanted to give y'all an update as to where we are as of those funds right now, because we've just had the collection month, at the collector's office, and so that's been turned over, and so in November they'll recognize this amount. So at the end of in November, they will have collections from October previous for this year up to date of $38,699. Last year to date revenues was $37,428. So it is about $1,000 difference than what last year was as far as collections in that fund. The animal control fund, which is 3409, the next fund down, had collections this year to date collections of 66,235, which is a drop because last year that was 85,725. Now we still have a couple more months, but that is, I don't expect it after October. We're going to have a huge increase there from last year. And then the next.
I want to make sure everybody heard that. There's a $20,000 decrease in collections thus far, year to date, from last year. That's very significant.
Yes, it is. The next page has your 3415, which is about 2/3 of the way down, the law enforcement protection 3415 fund. It is the other voluntary fund that we have that's for the jail. The collections year to date right now are 73,020. Last year, the year to date were 73,338. So it actually stayed pretty consistent.
Any questions on that? So voluntary taxes within $300 on law enforcement, $20,000 drop in the animal control fund, and then an actual increase in the warning system of about $1,000 there. Want to bring back and kind of reiterate what Angie mentioned about the jail budget. We were faced actually last year with very substantial, they came to the table, turnkey does medical, we must provide it, with a very substantial, probably close to 30% proposal of an increase. And because of the sheriff and the chief's work, we were able to remain virtually flat there. Now here we come again into this year. Well, certainly here it comes, right? Once again, we have a large increase because we're growing. There's a threshold number that we would certainly go past. Increase in jailers and all of those things, but because of their hard work, we're able to get efficiencies, and we were also able to negotiate with turnkey terms in which will keep us again relatively flat and save us a great deal of money in doing that. So again, thanks for the hard work of
Yes.
our Saline County Sheriff's Office.
And unless y'all have any the other ones are just gonna be grant funds, small funds, so I didn't wanna go through every single one of the couple of thousand here, a couple of thousand there, unless y'all would like for me to, which I'll be happy to do.
No.
I thought I might go home tonight, so, but I have budgeted each and every one of those with projected beginning balance and all that, and if you have questions as you go back over this and look at it, the rest of this book is going to be your detail of what makes up each individual budget. Basically, it comes to these summary pages somewhere, either as a decrease and a low increase or a higher increase. And then, but it does give the detail of each specific individual department and our fund budget. And I'm happy to answer any questions. If y'all have something, y'all can email me. Or if you have something, I'll be glad to answer those too. But.
Is there anybody on the court that has a question? Highly encourage you to go through this. If you have questions, we're here, but write those questions down. Again, as Justice Curtis said, if there's an elected official that you want to hear from on one of the supplement pages, with the above or below $15,000 increase, please let us know so that we can be ready for that. But we will be here and ready the first Monday in December to discuss our budget further. Please do your homework and ask questions if you have those questions. Okay, thank you, Angie, very much. Again, without being too redundant, I really want to say thank you to all the elected officials. We meet a lot, and I want to say thank you to the finance team, the human resources team, for all of your work. We've got some challenges upon us. There's some great news that we just went over with our budget and how we're overperforming and exceeding the expectations of last year's budget. But there's some costs that we're going to talk about that are going to be extremely, well, they hurt. And it's not going to be a surprise to you all as we've been talking about it, and that's our health care. I'm going to just go back around real quick. In 2023, we were posed with we were with Blue Cross Blue Shield. In 2024, Blue Cross Blue Shield bid, my first experience with this, and we were over a 33% increase in what we were going to absorb. We couldn't do that. So we shopped it. We ended up going with Arkansas Municipal League. We incurred about 11% increase rather than a 33% increase. Worked extremely hard on mitigating any risk that we possibly could to make ourselves continue to remain attractive to those that insure us. And then we had a rate hold in 2024. I'm sorry, 2025. So 11% increase from 24 and 25 combined. And what we did was we were always looking for alternatives and best practices and self-insurance and other things that we might be able to recognize high performance and being able to sustain the costs that were associated with them. This year, we got the news that we were going to have about a 25% increase in our healthcare insurance. Let me just tell you what that means. That's $500,000 is what that means. It's extremely expensive. We have about 320 employees, and we've made modifications throughout the year, just again, to try to limit our exposure. And so we have an individual employee that comes to work for Saline County. We pay for their health insurance. If they choose to insure their child also, then there is a cost associated that the employee carries. And then if they say, hey, I've got family that I want to cover, there's a cost associated with that. This hits our employees potentially exponentially in a way that is very hurtful financially to them. And so we've been talking about this a lot. We've been talking about it with our HR department. We've been talking about this with our human resources chair. I don't want to steal any of your thunder, Justice Whitley, and I really, really appreciate your attentiveness, your questions, your thoughts, but I do want to, I'm going to hand it over to you whether you like it or not here in just a second. But I want you to know that we are up against a line as open enrollment actually happens tomorrow. And so, Justice Whitley, if you have any comments about this as we move forward.
Thank you, Judge. Yes, and it's the percentage of increase, I don't know that we've ever seen this percentage of increase or anywhere close to it year over year. So it is a substantial, amount of money, and which is going to, we will talk about cushions and all of that later, but it's going to be daunting to be able to afford insurance, and we all know that insurance, the marketplace is skyrocketing right now. We have also had an inordinate amount of claims year over year, and as a matter of fact, inordinate, number of claims as far back as I can recall this year. And so, all those factors, the market going up and having a lot of claims. Also, we have employees that have quite a few actually, who have not done their wellness checks, and which helps us keep our insurance more affordable. And so those are some things that we need to address moving forward. Whenever we're considering, we just need to discuss that moving forward whenever in HR. We're about to go into Jessup, and shortly in this week, and we're going to discuss a lot of things regarding raises, merit raises, COLAs. We'll discuss that in finance. But right now, what we're looking at is county general. If we were to, we're like I said, required to cover $500,000 in order to keep our insurance as is. Okay, but there's also there's a responsibility there of a $54,000 roughly that we are not, that would be the responsibility of the employee. $54,000 spread around all the county employees, and that would make it to where their responsibility in this, if it would basically make it to where if we do give a COLA this year, that it would not be realized. Let's say if we gave a 4% COLA, for instance, the employee would actually still end up owing $464 annually. And so they wouldn't realize their raise. And so that kind of puts us, I think, does that, that puts us in a tight spot. There's a lot of our employees who, struggle, and they have to have insurance for themselves and their children. And so, so that puts us in a very difficult position. That being said, and I've talked to Angie about this, talked to Judge about this, and I hope I'm not going too far.
Keep going.
Okay. But there is an idea that if we that we could afford and still maintain an appropriate level of a cushion, that if we covered the $554,000, and then that would allow our employees countywide to realize whatever level of an increase that they've earned this year, they would be able to actually realize that money and not be owing that much more in insurance. So basically, we would be covering our responsibilities, and this is something that I would like to personally propose, that we would be covering the county's responsibilities, and then also the employee's additional responsibility in the insurance, and therefore whatever cost of living adjustments that we make this year, that they would actually be able to realize an increase. Does that make sense to everyone?
Do you mind if I add a couple of things?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned the Jessup meeting, but it's small potatoes, but you can get enough small potatoes, it makes a meal. And that's what we've been trying to do for the last several months, knowing that this is coming. Jessup, we used to give merit increases based on, and we would do that by increasing the employee's rate of pay. Last year, we didn't do that. What we did was we gave them a one-time percentage bonus. And there's two reasons behind that. If you do great in 2024, you don't continue to compound cost of living adjustments on that increase year after year after year over a 25-year career, and it saves substantial amounts of money. What we're looking at is saving over $50,000 just in our new methodology of being able to recognize the employees, and I want to give credit to our elected officials for doing this. We're also able, last year, pay it out of that budget year and not extend our debt into the next year. I believe that we will do the exact same thing, even to have greater gain in our efficiency of dollars spent, but also be able to recognize those that go above and beyond. And that's because of the hard work of our elected officials. We talked about our budgets and what we've done, whether it be a copier contract or anything that we can do to run a more lean government. I want you to notice that we don't have a bunch of employees or elected officials coming to you with a bunch of employee requests to increase FTEs. Yes, we will always, we're growing. We grow with it or we fail. But I promise you, we're cognizant of those things. But as you look, this is very close. There's reasons why we can't put the exact dollar amount. But if you look at this sheet on the bottom, we have employees that are very close to this number. And if somebody's making a $39,000 salary and they are insuring their family and they absorb this increase, a quarter of their salary goes to the insurance of their family. And as Justice Whitley says, if we were in a position to vote for an increase, they would have a net loss in their take-home dollars that's pretty substantial. Because of the hard work we've done, the $500,000 is there. It will be there tomorrow at open enrollment, guaranteed. It's there. What I'm advocating very, very hard for is, it's one thing to be nice. It's the nice thing to do if we can afford it. We've worked hard so that we can afford it and that we can keep our employees. We're blessed right now to be able to say that we can do this. So we take the $500,000, we don't have a choice in it. But for just another 10%, I sound like a salesman here, just for another 10%, we are able to go to our employees and say that you're not gonna absorb this great amount of money on every paycheck that you receive, where your cost of living adjustment doesn't even get you into black. One other thing I wanna mention is Justice Whitley said, we're running about 140 to 150% probably by year end in the red, meaning that our claims are exceeding what we're insured for. And so to Justice Whitley's point, what do we do about it? You'll see in this letter that we're putting out to all employees who frequently ask questions and the most up-to-date numbers on what it means to this county, on the burden that we are carrying, that we say that you will be getting wellness checks. If you choose not to get a wellness check, it'll be your responsibility to pay $50 a pay period. We deduct that from your check, $50 a pay period. It's the right thing to do. We are all in this boat together. And we've got to do what we can to keep our employees healthy, but they also have to do what they can to help us not incur costs like this. We as a team will continue to work, and we will have a better position next year. I just know we must have a better position. There's no negotiating that. We will work hard to do that.
Judge, also, yes, and it's something I would like to just say to the court is that a failure to pass this proposal could definitely affect not only your retention to hiring, and whenever you affect retention negatively, that costs you money. That costs you a lot of money. And I think that we will actually be saving money if we go along with this proposal rather than losing employees, potentially losing employees and having to rehire and train, because that's a very, very expensive process.
Promise y'all won't believe this, but I'll close with this. There are reputable insurance companies that won't even shoot us a number. Healthcare is a mess right now. Healthcare is an absolute mess. And we're falling victim of it for sure. Now, we're gonna do everything that we can, and we have, up to the point of almost where I owe you an apology here. But every dollar that we're able to save, every employee that we're able to protect through the health insurance that they enjoy in their children's and their family, we wanted to open every single door. Now, here's the door that opens tomorrow, and that's open enrollment. And when we leave here, we've got our financial team waiting for a decision from this Quorum court, and here's the decision that's upon us. What numbers are we gonna show them tomorrow morning? Are we gonna say that we're going to pay the other 10%, the $54,000, to assure that what you pay today, you will pay on the first pay period in January? Or are we going to say that we will not do that, and that you need to figure out how you're gonna incur these costs and if you're gonna continue to work here?
Do you mean the 554,000?
We're taking the
Not the
500.
54, you said 50, okay. Just making sure we're on the same
The
page.
question is, do we do 500 or do we do 554?
Are you asking for a motion?
I am.
So moved for the 554.
There's been a motion by Justice Whitley to accept the $554,967.60 that has been proposed to us thus far. We have a motion by Justice Whitley and a second by Justice Engel. Is there anybody here to speak for or against this? Court, do you have any questions or comments?
Okay.
Justice Keller, I recognize.
Does this include the, now this will be where they have to do a wellness check? I mean, is this part of that?
So the wellness check will be on the employee. If
Right.
they choose not to do a wellness check, we will deduct $50 per pay period from their check.
Okay, that's
And
what
then it will go back in against the cost that you just voted, well, that you shall vote on.
That's what we're.
Yes, sir.
Judge, would that require any ordinance or policy change to do that with the wellness checks?
No, it's going to be written as terms of their employment.
Judge, just so I can be clear, the extra $54,000 that we're talking about absorbing is for the employees that are covering their families, spouses and stuff. We pay 100% of every employee, correct?
We pay 100% of every employee. There's 3 tiers. There's individual, so no cost to the employee. There's child and there's family. What that 54 will do is allow them, as you'll notice on the bottom, they will pay the same amount as they do currently
So
today.
that's what I'm saying, we're gonna absorb the extra cost that they would have if we didn't do anything.
So currently, monthly, employee and child's 532, who remain 532. It would, family would be 732. Here's the difference, if we don't do this, instead of paying 732 for family, they're gonna pay 901. That's big. Justice Billingsley, you're recognized.
I do think that it's important that, you know, we support our employees and the families that are on this plan. So I do think, especially being tomorrow's the opening day, that this is important and definitely a good measure to pass tonight by this body. I would like to, when we get into the COLA and the employee raises, make sure we look at that, and that may be part of what we have to also take into consideration as this being part of that increase as well. So I do think that there's been a lot of hard work in that, and I appreciate that because I do know as well that insurance unfortunately is a mess and going up, and so I think this is the right message to send to let them know where tomorrow when that open enrollment starts that the funding's coming from.
Thank you, Justice Billingsley, and we will be going over the merit and COLA to bring forward in the upcoming Justice meeting. Are there any other questions or discussion?
This sucks.
Well, and I do.
We were, and why I say that, we were expecting a 15% increase, not a 25% increase.
It's crazy.
Well, and the question, Judge, is just to confirm, is that we're looking at a $590,000 increase in the revenue for county general budget, and this eats up, I mean, if you look at it that way, I mean, this eats up most of that, right? I mean, that's what we're sitting here.
I can throw you all kinds of numbers as it is to last year, I mean, but you're right.
The increase is
It's
basically
right,
eating
and
up
you've
on
got to
that.
find it somewhere.
But the good thing is it's there.
Yeah.
And
The
another,
bad thing is it's spent.
that is our growth, but our beginning balance is higher this year, so we're still gonna have some room to play with COLA and other things.
We're substantially better shape this year than we were last year financially. Now, here comes a $554,000 thank you note. Any other comments or questions? We had a motion by Whitley and a second by Engel that this court will make sure that our employees' rates stay the same. And tomorrow at open enrollment, we said that we will take up that increase, which at this point in time looks like it's 554,967.60. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Is Is there anything else for this budget discussion?
Just a reminder, review it, have any questions, reach out. Finance meeting will meet December 1, 6:45. Be here early, parking's gonna be terrible.
Thank you all. I know this was an extended meeting, but I'm not gonna not say these two things. But thank you for you and your team during the drug pickup. About 70 pounds of drugs were dropped off here, unused prescription drugs. Those who were able to attend our Veterans Day Mines to Front Lines in Bauxite, it was absolutely phenomenal. We'll get the first of 11 historical markers. We have the first of 11 historical markers at the Bauxite Museum and Community Center. I would encourage you to go by and see that. I also want to point out that we put signs on our courthouse lawn and memorial. And we were able to have our Veterans Memorial at 11 o'clock on 11/11 on the courthouse lawn, Veterans Memorial. It was a beautiful ceremony in which Daryl Wood led, and many people were able to gather at that ceremony also. And then, as Justice Curtis said, get here early because parking's going to be really, really bad for the Christmas parade. If there's nothing else,
I have one more comment, Judge, if I may.
absolutely.
On my November 28th, which is Black Friday, for those of you that don't want to go shopping, there is a crew meeting at Lyle Park to pick up portions of Saline River in the river and a couple portions outside the river. Hamburger and hot dogs will be provided afterwards. Lyle Park, 10 a.m. Black Friday. Bring your waiters and come help us.
Thank you. Justice Krause.
Yes, Judge, I just wanted to say I hated to miss the events at Bauxite Community Center. The Hot Springs Village does a really bang-up job to recognize their veterans, and so I was in attendance there, and it's always a phenomenal service, which our 2 elementary schools participate in, and so we had some readings from them about their letters to veterans and their appreciation for their service, and we also had their great choirs. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that has an announcement?
Move to adjourn.
If there's no opposition,